Joining us now, investigative reporter for the Austin American-Statesman, Tony Plahetsky, and former Republican congressman and executive director of the Aspen Institute's congressional program, Charlie Dent, and Democratic strategist and author of the Salty Politics newsletter on Substack, Julie Roginski. Julie, aptly named. Tony, we'll start with you. You're now in Illinois right now, where those Texas lawmakers have decamped. Game this out for us. The Texas State House is going to be back in session in the next hour. What happens next?
Well, we've been talking and interviewing this morning some of those Democrat members, and they say they are here. They are here at least through August 19th. That is when the special session ends. But then when we press them on their sort of long-term plan, they say that really this is something that they are taking day by day, week by week, potentially even month by month. But at this moment in time, they are firm in their decision. They are resolute that moving themselves from Texas here to Illinois was, in fact, the right thing to do, the just thing to do in their words, the sake of democracy.
Are lawmakers you're talking to concerned about these threats from Governor Abbott to extradite, expel, even arrest them?
Yes and no. However, they mostly think that that is more political posturing, frankly, from the governor, that when you drill down and you really understand the law and the legal mechanics, they say that that's not really, in their minds, something that could legally be accomplished. However, it should be noted that that is still something, in fact, that we are hearing that the Republicans are gearing up to do. A lot of this, though, is going to come down to what exactly happens in the next hour, because it is worth noting that nothing can happen until it is official that, in fact, the quorum has been busted and that the House does not have the needed number of members in their seats to do the state's business.
Charlie, is this a winning strategy long term for Republicans? They will pick up essentially 5 seats here. But is there a risk of what's been called dummy mandering, where they start diluting the seats they already hold?
That's certainly a possibility, because in order to, by the way, I was a state legislator for 14 years, so I've had my hands in the redistricting process on at least 2 occasions. But I'll tell you, yeah, they run the risk of diluting Republican votes in order to create these 5 additional Republican seats. And by the way, Texas Republicans have done this before. In 2003, when I came into Congress in 2004, they redistricted, picked up 5 seats, Republican seats in my class. I think attempted something similar in 2021. And Democrats employed the same tactics. You know, they basically left the state. But at the end of the day, yeah, Republicans are running a risk also of escalation, because we're seeing that perhaps New York, California, Illinois might engage in a redistricting process mid-decade, which could, again, result in Republican members in states like California losing their seats. And so there are going to be some Republican congressmen who might be telling the president, hey, not so fast. There is risk for some of your allies.
Julie, I want to get your thoughts on the Democratic strategy here, but let's listen to Governor Kathy Hochul on those efforts.
I cannot stand by and let this happen while Donald Trump and his co-conspirator, Greg Abbott, erode our democracy. History will judge us on how we respond to this moment. But here in New York, we will not stand on the sidelines with the timid souls. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
Is this a slippery slope, though? Do 2, 3, 4 wrongs make a right here?
Yeah, they do. In this kind of situation, of course. I mean, we're fighting for the soul of our democracy here. If the Republicans want to do something that's really rarely been done before, certainly not for any extrajudicial reason like they're doing right now in Texas, if they want to reopen up redistricting, reapportionment midway through the cycle. And as somebody, Charlie Dent, talked about how he was involved in redistricting, I have been involved in redistricting for the last 3 cycles. And I can tell you this is completely out of line. And if this is something that Greg Abbott wants to do, then yeah, bring it on. In that case, I really hope that Kathy Hochul does exactly what she says, which is move immediately to change the Constitution here in New York, that the same thing happens in California, that the same thing happens in Illinois. I would hope Governor Murphy in New Jersey calls a special session to get the legislature to put something on the ballot immediately. I think he's got only a few days to be able to do that. I hope he moves on that as well. But there is no room and no excuse for Republicans doing this and then Democrats just unilaterally disarming and saying, well, you know what, we don't like nuclear war, so we're not going to proliferate ourselves. That's just not how it's done. It's not how it's done in war. It's not how it's done in politics.
And Tony, just distill for us and for our viewers, what is the downside for voters here if this Republican plan goes through?
Well, Democrats will say unequivocally that it is unjust, that it draws lines in a way that are not consistent with the census, that is not consistent with how redistricting has always been done in Texas. And so they say that voters lose, that this is a patently political effort. And that is against what democracy is about, what America is about. And that is the reason they say they are taking such a strong effort, leaving their homes, leaving their families, leaving in some cases their jobs in the private sector to come here to Illinois for at least the next couple of weeks.
Charlie, former Obama Attorney General Eric Holder had initially said that we should be fighting against this politicization of the maps and that this should be an independent arbiter that deals with this. Have we seen the death, essentially, of an independent commission that deals with redistricting?
Probably. I hate to say that, but that's probably true. It's very difficult to do this. Look, you have to understand that redistricting is the most political of all processes. And you should remember, too, that these state legislators who are drawing the seats, they're not drawing them for these members of Congress. They're drawing them for themselves. Many of them want to be congressmen. So you have to keep that in mind. But look, this is the unhealthy that in our democracy that we have these mid-decade redistricting, because it's really distorted this whole process, and it's really contributed to the hyper polarization and partisanship that we have in Congress. Because most of these seats that are being drawn are very heavily skewed Democratic or Republican. And by the way, the Democrats have engaged in this too. I saw what they did in Illinois and Maryland and other states. So their hands aren't particularly clean either. But at the end of the day, there aren't a lot of people left in districts like the one I held that were truly swing districts. And I think this is what's really driving much of the tribalism and partisanship that we just can't break out from in this country.
I should mention that Eric Holder initially said that he was staunchly in favor of those independent commissions, and now he says you should fight fire with fire, kind of to your point. Who is hurt most by these efforts? It's the moderates, the swing voters who essentially are silenced by this.
I mean, all of us. Charlie has a great point, which is that this has become so gerrymandered on both sides that there are no moderates left for the most part in Congress because people are more concerned about losing primaries than they are concerned about winning general elections. And so as a result of that, you have very, very, very Republican-skewed seats or Democratic-skewed seats that appeal to the core base and don't appeal to people in the middle, which is most Americans. So it is Americans who are most harmed by this. And our government, as you can see, has become much, much, much more polarized as a result of these gerrymandered seats becoming more prevalent. But that's not the time to talk about that now. Eric Holder was right in trying to make this a nonpartisan issue, but not when you have one side that's doing everything possible to try to game the system. If one side is doing it, as the Republicans are in Texas, Democrats have to follow suit. They have to take the gloves off. They have to save our democracy. This is truly them understanding that they cannot win the elections next year. The president's numbers are in the tank. Their numbers are in the tank. Nobody supports Republican policies right now. They're doing this because they can't win, so they have to cheat. And if they want to cheat, then Democrats have to meet them on the field where they are.
Tony, let's not forget that this special session was initially called to address the flooding response to those catastrophic floods that we saw in your state. Is there anger over the fact that these legislators are now prioritizing the redistricting fight? Could it be blowback for Republicans on that front and for the Democrats that fled the state?
It absolutely could. Keep in mind that this tragedy we're now on the 1 month mark from that tragedy. And so the hope through this special session was that would be the foremost effort from lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle, that this would be a moment in the state's history for politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, to come forward to do a number of things, to take up a number of proposed measures to make Texas safer and to mitigate this kind of natural disaster in the future. And so, yes, I think there is certainly a level of upset among people on the ground in Texas that now the whole special session, the foundation, one of the primary foundations of the special session, has now been tossed aside, and this redistricting effort has taken center stage, complete, of course, yesterday with those Democrats leaving the state. And now, again, who knows where this special session will go, if anywhere. We're going to find out more later this afternoon.